Hey, it's Bill Trombley from Trombley Tool in East Troy, Wisconsin. Today I thought we'd do a video on clamps. I know some of you might be thinking, why in the world would we do that? I actually get a lot of questions about it. And so we have several different clamps I like, others I don't care for. And I thought I would go through and show some of the ideas that we have, or clamps that we use daily. One of the questions that came up was, what is this? This here is a company called Cant Twist, a Cant Twist clamp. It's sheet metal plates. You can get these from very small to, I got a really large one. You find them a lot in machine shops. The benefit of a Cant Twist clamp is you can't twist it, which might sound foolish to some. But the clamps that I've been using are over 30 years. And the benefit of these versus a C-clamp. C-clamps usually get bent, or this opening gets bent more and more and more, to the point where they're non-usable. And it doesn't matter, it seems like how good of the quality is, people over-tighten them and wreck them. So a Cant Twist is good. What about these here? I found these at a welding supply store. I thought, oh yeah, that's a serious clamp. It's a drop forge clamp. Never used it. Why? It doesn't close. You know, the minimum gap on this thing is 1/2 inch. You know, and then it's relatively short distance this way versus the opening. I don't get it. And these things aren't cheap. I got 2 of them. I don't think I ever clamped anything in them once. So we use Cant Twist clamps. When it comes to vice grips, I have a number of vice grips. I don't have many clamps, probably 4 of each size, 6 of each size, something like that. The Irwin vice grips were good. I prefer them with the swivel pads. And I actually switched over and started buying the Milwaukee Tool ones. They have the red adjuster on them. You can get them from Home Depot. We had done some work from the company aspect on it, involved with Milwaukee and Empire Level Company. These are called torque lock. The idea is you can put a screwdriver in there and tighten it once it was on there. Some of that stuff was designed by engineers that I don't think ever used clamps. What I like is that it is bigger. It's also nice you can hang them. If the hole's big enough, you can actually get a cargo strap through it and pull on it, like if you're doing stretch forming. And someday I'm sure we'll probably show that aspect of it. One thing that I've done quite often on my clamps, which I find frustrating, is you open and close the clamp, open and close it, open and close it, and the clamp goes out of adjustment. So put a nut on there. These clamps are a 1/4 thread. So I'll use either a hex nut or a wing nut. So once I get the tension set, I can lock the clamp. You know, sometimes people go, well, that's a lot of farting around. When you have to open them a bunch, it drives you crazy having it go out of adjustment. So a simple locking feature like that makes a big difference. One of the changes that I made to almost every single vice grip style clamp that I have that's like this is I took and I tack welded on different pads. So this is the original factory swivel pad on there. And they're about 3/4 inch in diameter. They're not flat, and that's because of the way that they were folded up. They're also steel. So what I did was took these coupons here, and these are 1/8 inch thick stainless steel plates that are 1 1/4 inch diameter, and I tack welded it onto the existing pad. And some might look at that and go, that's pretty crazy. You can go on eBay. If you look up stainless steel disc on eBay, you can find these discs for $2 to $4 a piece, $2 a piece. Sometimes they offer value packs. You know, we're also going to get 20 discs, 20 coupons for 20 bucks. So it's $20 a pad, or $1 a pad. And all you do is you take the clamp, take 2 pads, line them up, clamp them together so that it's lined up. And then I just tack welded the corner. Now I didn't tack weld the whole thing for 2 reasons. One, if you get a lot of heat into it, you'll distort the pad. It won't be flat. The other thing is if I ever need to get it off, because I need to have the smaller footprint of the original pad, it's just a die grinder and cut the 4 tacks. Not sitting there trying to grind out this healthy weld in there. Why stainless steel? I gas weld aluminum, and we use flux. Flux is extremely corrosive to steel. So a normal vice grip, whether it's a Milwaukee or a vice grip made by Irwin tools, they're steel and they're plated. And you'll rust these up pretty quick. That iron oxide, I was told, deactivates the welding flux. So if you're like, well, I got this really rusty clamp and you're sticking it into where your flux is, trying to hold your patch together while you tack weld it, you'll see that flux turn brown from the rust, and that's iron oxide. So stainless steel pad, it won't rust. And it stays clean. And they stay flat. Another nice thing is non-marring. The other benefit to it that's really big, and we'll show it here on this panel here. This is a T6 toweling. That's a rush job for us here in the shop. We're trying to get this thing finished up. Is I have a flush patch that I built right here. And it's easy for me to span the joint. You know, because my target area is the size of this clamp pad. Whoops, change it around slightly like that. It's got to be within the size of this pad instead of the narrow pad. So it makes it easier to go across the seam, which makes it nice for when you're, you know, this patch gets riveted in. But it makes it super nice when I have to tack weld this if it was a body piece or something like that. I have a much larger working surface with the wider pads. Now the pads I'm using are 1.25" diameter. I have one vice grip that I welded on some 2-inch diameter coupons. These, I thought, well, you go a little bit bigger is good. If you go a lot bigger, it'd be way better. They tend to flop like that. You know, and they're too big. So I have one pliers that has the bigger coupons on it, and I'll be honest with you, I just don't use it. Seldom do I ever pull this one out. So 1.25" seems to be a good rounded size at an 1/8 inch thick. You know, you want some thickness so that I can clamp out here at the edge of the disc and not have the disc bend or flex. The swivel pads are nice. For us, you know, in the aluminum work, tool marks are important. So if anything, just a little bit of masking tape on it helps protect the material, and it sticks well to the stainless disc. You know, and that'll be a lifetime kind of a deal with these here. So it's something to think about. What about if you have to clamp in a reverse curve? Picture building this panel here. So this panel here is a wing fillet for an F4U Corsair. So this mounts actually on the bottom of the wing. So the wing would be right here. And then this is right where the round fuselage would go. So the exhaust outlet is right here. Pretty cool. But if I want to clamp it to the buck, well, then I have this. So this is a piece of aluminum tubing. Nothing special, it's just out of our stock rack, 1.5" diameter aluminum tubing, 1/8 inch wall. And I took and I machined in that keyway like that. Nothing fancy. You could do it with a unibit. And this is a vice grip that doesn't have the bigger pads on it. And this goes through there. And you want this to be relatively snug. ish. And the reason why is when you take the clamp on and off, this tube isn't flying off in the process. But now it allows me that if I have to clamp in the middle of the reverse like that, so I got a pad on the bottom, and this would be clamping it tight to the buck. But then this tube lays in the natural channel of the reverse. No tool marks, or otherwise think of a reverse curve, and then I got this big flat coupon of the jaw. There's nothing flat in the reverse. It'll put a tool mark. So I have 2 of these tubes that I've made. I'm a firm believer and was taught that when metal shaping panels and fitting it to a buck, you use 1 clamp, no more than 2 ever. And that's the way I shape. Someday when we're building panels to bucks, you'll see that. We have a project, it's a set of wheel pants. They'll be coming up soon. And you'll see that process there of using 1 clamp on the part. So it's a simple thing though that anybody can build in their home shop. Tool mark free, great way for holding reverse curves. We have here, bring you over to this here, to this table. This handy device, a friend of mine made this for me. It's got the 2 legs on this side, this leg here, and it's a point, and this is a weight. You could call them a third hand, might be what some of them might be called that. A friend of mine, he made this, Dan up in the Twin Cities, and he has some more. The benefit of this mainly is for welding. So picture here this coupon, and I wanted to weld it to something flat, and how do you hold it? You know, so that weight is pushing down on this coupon. Here is an example. Let's see, like that. So simple project. You know, this is got a couple tapped holes in this weight. This is a simple TIG welding project on a Saturday morning. You need 1. You know, I got 1. I don't need 6. You look at my clamps and you might think that you got a lot of clamps. I have a fair amount of clamps, but I know guys that have a lot of clamps. I don't have quite as many as those guys. But I like the clamps that I do have because they're good quality and they fit a function and they work very well. One of the clamps that I really like are these tiny little ones. These are made by a company called Worth, W-U-R-T-H. I think it's German, but you can get them in the States. Panel clamps, those fit tight. These are my favorite ones. These are also Worth clamps. You'll be able to see the text on it. That way you guys can internet search this stuff. Yeah, like that. These are pretty cool. And to prevent tool marking, if anything, I just put a piece of masking tape around the jaws. Depends on my application. These here are called grippers. And these are made by Ben Van Berlo. I think he's in Holland. You can get them from Trick Tools. And this here would be as if you had a seam that you're going to weld together. You could drill a hole right next to the edge and assemble this, and this little assembly here, put this wing nut on it like that, would pinch the sheets together by drawing that up. You know, then you could tack weld the sheet together, then weld up the holes. So grippers, look that up on Trick Tools. Mike Wagner at Cornfield Custom makes these here. These are stainless steel, and he had 3 different sizes. And this too would be as if you wanted to hold 2 panels together while you're tack welding it. Picture doing a 1/4 panel change or something like that. And the small holes are designed to fit 1/8 inch diameter Cleos. I bought, I don't know, 4 or 6 of each size he had. I haven't used them yet, and I haven't used the grippers yet, but we have a couple projects that are in-house where it'd be good application for it. But simple stuff that makes your life easier. So think of those. So that's Mike Wagner at Cornfield Customs has these. I think they're on his website. And that's cool stuff, and he uses them. And like I've said in other videos, you know, buy tools that were designed by metal shapers for metal shapers. It's the best way to go out there. It helps their business, and you're actually getting products that they've tried and used and modified and tweaked and whatever else, so you know it'll work. One of the questions came up was Cleos. There's the 4 main sizes. So they're actually color coded. So silver would be a 3/32 Cleo. Copper color is 1/8 inch. Black ones are 5/32 holes, and the gold ones are 3/16. In aircraft stuff, we use all 4 sizes. For the car stuff, most of the guys are using the 1/8 inch ones. In the riveting video, you saw that we talked about what drill size to use. That's for shooting rivets, but it also works good for Cleos. So the drill bit sizes are 40, 30, 21, and a 10. So number 40 drill bit is for the 3/32. The number 30 is for the 1/8 inch or the copper Cleo. The number 21 is for the 5/32 rivet or the black Cleo. And then the number 10 drill bit is for the 3/16 ones. And they're a couple thousandths oversized. The benefit with that is it's easier to get the Cleos in and out because the hole is a couple thousandths bigger. So that's something to think about. Another question came up is, what about the short Cleos? You'll see some of these where this is the standard, probably the most produced Cleo out there in length. And they got ones that are real short. And is there any benefit to those? Would they hold harder or anything? I don't know for sure. Generally, when I get those short ones, and you also find them sometimes where the body on them is real big in diameter, I take and I throw them away. And the reason why is, you know, for us, I got, I don't know, 200 or 300 of each Cleo sizes. And there's projects where I've put in almost every single Cleo I've had. So I have a bag that clips onto my work belt, and it looks like a tool bag. And in there, I just have one size Cleo. Well, I just want to grab it, stick it in the pliers, and go. When you get the funny size ones, where the diameters are bigger, they don't necessarily fit the pliers good. So that drives you crazy. And then if they're short, they just don't feel right in the pliers. And, you know, this stuff's hard enough as it is. You don't need to be thinking about, well, why is this one weird and all that stuff. And the only reason why I end up with them is if I buy a lot of Cleos, of used ones, all of a sudden you'll find these odd ones in there. So as I come across them out of my drawer, I just pitch them. So I just stick with the standard ones. Another Worth tool, clamps. They call these welding clamps. And this pliers goes around, and this opens and closes like this. And this is a sheet metal clamp, spring steel. And this tool opens and closes it. And they say they're welding clamps. There's 2 different sizes. There's 2 things. One, they got a cleat in there that's like supposed to bite into the surface to hold the clamp from sliding. I'm an anti-tool mark guy, so that drives me crazy. The other thing too is it's not often that you have to clamp so close to the edge. So they work, and I've used them. And then getting the tool on and off, it's just cumbersome. But, you know, I got them. So it's something that you could think about. The other thing with Cleos. This came up. So you have wing nut style. So you have what are called drops. Actually, I got a bigger sample here. Customers look at what I have in my shop and all of a sudden they go, hey, you know, I saw what you had, so I had to go out and buy some tools, and I bought these Cleos. And it's like, you know, this is a normal drop. Yeah. And then I'm like, yeah, it doesn't really fit anything, so, you know, you can have it. It's like, cool, thanks. So if anything, I keep it as a display piece, because if I have to ever drop a 1/2 inch diameter hole to rivet, I have a drop Cleo for it. So, need for a conversation piece. You can get them with wing nuts or hex nuts. Where am I going with this? If you go on eBay and you look up aircraft tools, you'll see Cleo runners. And what a Cleo runner is, they'll have this funny looking end, and it's basically almost like an impact wrench. It's not. It's like a pneumatic drill in a way. And it's designed that it holds the body, and it takes and it runs the nut down to draw these up. So guys that get new to aviation, they go, well, geez, you know, you have these normal kind of Cleos, well then do I need all these drops? So then I'm going to need a Cleo runner, and does the Cleo runner somehow work and run on a traditional Cleo that's like this, you know, where you'd use the pliers? No, it's for running drops. These are 9/16 hex bodies and a 1/2 inch hex nut on them. I just use 2 box wrenches. The Cleo runners would be, I think, more for heavy airplane use, where they're doing skin repairs on the side of a fuselage of a Boeing or an Airbus, just because of the plate thickness that they're playing with is so much thicker. So then that's where you'll see drops, and then drop or Cleo runners, or pneumatic Cleo guns and all that kind of stuff. So that's more for what that stuff is. If you're an airplane guy watching this and you're building your kit plane, you don't need it. If you're a car guy, if you're going to use drops, you know, if you're going to do a lot of it, maybe. One of the things though is with a drop is there's so much more torque that you can apply with 2 wrenches, you think of the handle on it, versus the amount of energy in here with the spring that's in there, that you can actually tighten that so much where you can actually draw the Cleo and just pull it through the material. So now picture if you had a pneumatic gun on it and you're doing 40 thousandths thick aluminum for your RV4 kit plane or something like that. You'll just wreck it. So you don't need the Cleo runners, you don't need Cleo drivers. Pliers and a good selection of Cleos would be good enough. Pliers for me, I'm a firm believer in having at least 4 of them at all times. I probably got 6 of just the pliers. And the reason why is inevitably they're in 6 different spots. And you just need to be going and grab it and go. So they have a couple pairs of them. They're inexpensive. And you know, I'm still working off my first pair of pliers. But I can tell just from what I got laying out here on this project here, I got 3 or 4 pairs laying out. So extra pliers is a good idea. Something to think about. So we got drops there. And then there's a company that I was turned on to. They're made in Europe, and it's called Gripon. Actually, you can see it on their handle there. Gripon. You can get them off of Amazon. Faye Butler has them. I'm sure there's a couple other places you can get them. They're distinctive. They always will have the orange handle on it. The benefit with these is they're aluminum. The bodies are steel, but aluminum jaws. So they're not so bloody heavy. We're doing work in sheet metal. And one of the things that can happen is you get a big, huge vice grip pliers, and it's so heavy, it's pulling your project with it. So this would be the welding one that they have, and they got many different flavors, just like every other pliers company does. But I've never seen them with aluminum jaws. At least they're the only ones I've ever seen. So that's nice to be able to clamp down and hold something. This one here is for welding up hole plugs. And the lower jaw plate is copper. And then you would go like that and you could weld through there. And guys go, well, for MIG welding. Well, I have a huge MIG welder, 300 amp ESOP MIG welder that we probably use less than once a year. We TIG weld everything. So, you know, this works great for if you have to weld up holes close to an edge and you're TIG welding it as well. There's enough room to get in there. And it was Gripon pliers, which I liked. People have asked me about these in the past. This is a Gripon as well. And they actuate like that, a little bit different. And people go, why do I have that? I have arthritis in my hands, and every day it's getting worse. And so I can clip these clamps on, like, whoops. Let me loosen this off a little bit. I can do this with it. And they're pretty darn user-friendly, and they're small enough that they can fit in my pocket. Usually I wear my shop coat when I'm in on the power hammer, just because of the oil spray off the panel. When I go home, my wife knows I was using a power hammer because I'll have a spray of oil right here from it spraying out from under the die. But if I grip on two of them, and especially with smaller panels running through the power hammer, it's a vertical handle. It's easier for me to hold on to. You know, I wouldn't necessarily use it for this piece, but that was just an example. And they're easy to pop on and off. They got a thumb trigger on it, like that. So then they just fit in my pocket. So people have seen that in photos and asked, what's that yellow-orange handle? So, good product. People have asked me, what is this? We got several different sizes. Well, that's not true. I only got two sizes. I got these smaller ones. And these, I'd call them a bar clamp. 6-inch opening. People have had, why does it have that hole in the end? What's nice with that is it's I think a 5/16 bolt, 5/16 18 thread. So you could put a bolt in there. You could bolt some kind of a different jaw assembly on it. So this one here has a swivel pad for tubing. So picture if you had to hold a plate to a piece of pipe. It's pretty nice. And these here are strong hand tools. Strong hand tools. I use these things all the time. In previous videos, when I was using the hammer forms, I use these. These are basically the same thing, just much bigger. These are 18-inch clamps. And they say it's 4 3/8 inch depth, a bar clamp. Tractor Supply. Tractor Supply had these in that closeout table that they'd have by the door where you go out. So these, they probably have 8 of them. Use these quite a bit. So very fast acting clamps. And you can get them strong enough to hold most of the projects we would need. So then the last clamp and we'll finish up. So in the past, picture if you had to clamp deep into something. So you grab a vice grip like this. Now this vice grip is steel, and they got ones with draws that are even longer. When you clamp into a piece of sheet metal, what happens? You clamp here and this thing drops down, and it'll twist and contort and it'll pull your panel with it. So how often do I use these? Almost never. They just drive me crazy. They're just too heavy. And you go, well, too heavy. Well, it's 40,000 thick aluminum. So if the pliers is heavy and it's pulling on your panel, it makes fit-ups harder if you're going to tack weld pieces together. And also it can actually dent the panel, you know, if this pulls on it. So, I have here, and this is from Gripon as well. These jaws are aluminum. And you can get them off their website. I think they offer them in steel. If you're doing metal shaping, I would get the aluminum ones if you can find them. This is a Gripon, part number is 144-20. Now what's unique about mine versus the other ones, or versus just this pliers if you just purchased it, is I added this piece to it. This is an aluminum piece, aluminum square tubing. The foot is welded to the tubing. It has a slot here. And then I turned up a simple bushing that fits in these factory holes. These holes are put in by the factory at Gripon. And what does that do? Well, that is a foot that allows the clamp to go onto a part like this. So it's just a pressure foot. I can set the height and I can move the location of it. And I don't have it trying to take and pull the work off the welding table. If I'm welding up an aluminum fender or an aircraft wheel pant or something like that, I don't have the clamp fighting me in the process. I took the jaws and I lightly polished the ends. This is just electrical tape. I put it on the part we were particularly clamping so that it wouldn't mark the surface. This too is just a simple welding project. You don't have to have a machine shop to make it. This piece here you could build for these, right? You just got to get a little bit imaginative, and if you mounted a vertical post on here, then it would support the clamp so that the clamp is sitting on your part like this instead of your clamp doing this to your part. So, and I can show you that with this. So this is that T6 cowling we're trying to get finished up. It's probably the worst cowling that I've seen on any T6 with the amount of damage that was in it. It was improperly set up for a long period of time, and at every cylinder location the skins were broken. The channel was broken on the inside. It was a mess. I built new leading edge for it, a lot of different stuff. And this is one of the 3 sections. This is a flush patch here. So this here, I can bring this clamp in and the clamp just sits. The clamp isn't pulling my work. It isn't impacting the job. The clamp is aluminum, it's super lightweight. So it's a really nice thing to have, and it makes the life a lot easier. So it's something to think about as well. So I'm sure some of you are thinking, how could you possibly do a video on clamps? Well, we're 33 minutes into doing a video on clamps. And something to maybe consider what clamps to buy and which clamps maybe to stay away from, and then how to simply modify your clamps to make it easier and more user effective, that doesn't cost a lot of money and doesn't take a lot of time, but makes the quality of the tool a whole lot nicer. So we're going to be getting back on the gas tanks as soon as I get this done. In our shop we got short-term, mid-term, and long-term projects. We have what's called AOG, which is aircraft on ground. And when an airplane is AOG, meaning they need the parts fixed right away, we fix them right away. That's what keeps the world flying. So, you got any questions, post them in the comments down below. Like, share, tell all your friends, and thanks for watching.